Okay, well, without further ado, here's Mr. Jones.
Right on. Good afternoon. All right, so what just happened on Sunday? 7.
Don't come in here making enemies.
7 rings. You got to recognize greatness. I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm not a Tom Brady fan. I'm not a Bucks fan. But you got to recognize greatness. Because one of the things I love about Brady is last year he put up this Instagram post, right? And it was a picture of his 6 rings that he had then. And it said that people asked him which one is his favorite ring. And his response was the next one. His focus was on the next one already. But the greatest part about that post that I love wasn't what he posted. It wasn't seeing his 6 rings. It wasn't recognizing that he's the greatest quarterback of all time. But there was a comment on that post from his wife, Giselle. And his awesome supporting wife told him 3 awesome words to her husband. What were those 3 words? I love you. Practicing for Valentine's Day already. Nope. I think somebody just said it. What was it? Go get it. She said, go get it. His wife, who's well off herself, him who's well off himself, they don't need it for the money. They don't need it for the fame. He's already proven it. And he's saying that my next ring is my favorite one. He got it. And she said, go get it. It's that perspective. That perspective and forward thinking and that support in his life. That's what makes him the greatest. Is that perspective that he has to look forward, to envision what he wants, and somebody in his life that is supportive and tells him, go get it. You see where I'm going with this? Our perspective is important. Who in here has been in one way, shape, or form affected by suicide? Whether it's veteran suicide, whether it's a family member, whether you've had the battle yourself, whether it's somebody that you knew. In one way or another, I guarantee everybody in this room has been affected by suicide. Whether it's your own thoughts, whether it's your own battle, whether it's someone that you know in your family, a friend, or another military service member or veteran. I got out of the Marine Corps in 2006. I'm going on 15 years of being out. I'm feeling old. But over that time, I have known so many fellow brothers and sisters that have gone down to suicide. And that's just in my veteran and military life, my veteran and military network. Not including just people I know. Family members, friends, their family members. We need to understand that suicide isn't something that just happens to somebody else. That it's not something that we can just turn our heads away from. What I want you to understand from your perspective is that we are at war with suicide. In 2003, I deployed with the 1st Marine Division over to Iraq and was part of the initial shock and awe invasion up into Baghdad. For a lot of us, that was our first time ever being in combat. The only guys who had seen combat prior to that were the ones that were in Desert Storm and 1 or 2 that had gone to Afghanistan prior to that operation. We had to switch our perspective. We were used to training. We shoot at plastic targets. And we had to switch our perspective. We're on a battlefield now. They shoot back here. And I had to have that conversation with one of my junior Marines because I could tell he was anxious. And I could tell that there was something going on inside of him. And this was after we crossed the border. This was day 2. And I walked up to him. He was young. He was 18. I was only 21, not like I was old and experienced. And I had to sit down and talk with him. And I said, bro, no one's going to tell you to pull the trigger here. There's no range officer here that's going to tell you to start firing and then to stop and reload. You've been trained for this. You have to make a decision. Are you going to pull a trigger and send rounds down range, or are you not? They shoot back here. Understand this is a different environment than what we're used to. And so we had to go forward with this perspective that we're not in training. This is real. This isn't a video game where we get to reanimate if something happens. If you die, you die. If you get blown up, you get blown up. And that was a physical battlefield war. That was war with other people. Our perspective when it comes to our lives, when it comes to suicide, when it comes to substance abuse, to alcohol, those types of things, we need to see that as a war with those things. Not with other people, but against those things. The common statistic for losing veterans and service members every day is between 20 and 22. I guarantee you've heard that. Imagine being on a battlefield and being in war and losing 20 plus soldiers every single day. It wouldn't be so easy to just click on Netflix and run through a series of Game of Thrones. You'd be focused. What's happening? Who's the enemy? How do I combat this enemy? How do we come together and fight and win? Because when you sign the dotted line and put this uniform on, you're saying, I'm a warrior. And I'm ready to go fight for my country. I don't care what your MOS is. Whether you're stamping papers or loading rifles, it doesn't matter. You put the uniform on, you're ready to pull a gun and go out to war and pull a trigger. Even if it may not be as prominent today as it was years ago, it's still a reality. And so we have to have that same mentality every day. We are at war with suicide, and every day is a battle. However we face that battle is going to determine the outcome of it. Do we look at this battle like a joke? Do we look at it like it won't involve me? I'm fine. Well, what about somebody else? It's not always about you. Tom Brady has that perspective to look forward, but he has his wife Giselle to say, go get it, to be there to support him. My wife supports me every single day. She was there from basically day one of dealing with these battles. And the moment she came into my life, I was fighting these battles, and she was there. And she supported me and guided me, prayed for me, helped me, and saw me in a different way than other people saw me, and that helped me. When I got back from Iraq, it wasn't pretty. Because everything that I went through over there, as you're going up Highway 7 up into Baghdad, battle after battle after battle after battle, after every time something happens, it's okay, file that away in your head. I don't have time to deal with it. Yeah, that was traumatic. Yeah, that was crazy. But I'm going to file that away in the back of my head and move on. And then I go to the next battle. Same thing. Yeah, that was traumatic. That was crazy. That was insane. That was chaotic. File it away in my head and move on. And you keep doing that and doing that and doing that. And then finally you get home and your brain says, okay, I'm home. I'm in a safe place now. Let's deal with all of this. And that's what it did. It threw everything out in front of me. I couldn't go to sleep without seeing it. I couldn't drive on the roads without seeing it. I couldn't look at a person without seeing it, hearing it, smelling it. And I had to figure out how I'm going to deal with this. And I didn't know how. And I never reached out to anybody for help, not even the ones I was in Iraq with. They all seemed fine to me. They all seemed like they came home to their happy families and everything was okay. What was wrong with me? I thought I was the only one. And so as I'm waking up screaming in the middle of the night, trying to figure out what's going on, as I'm anxious every day, trying to figure out how to deal with all of this, as I'm snapping on family members, as I'm getting violent, as I'm making choices in my life that aren't beneficial to me, finding the bottom of a bottle, turning to drugs, turning to violence, whatever could fill a gap in me that I was trying to fill, trying to figure out what to do with my life. And it wasn't until I finally reached out and tried to start connecting with other people, the Marines I was out there with my wife, with my girlfriend at the time, opening up to her and starting to talk about it and work through it, finally seeking counseling, going through a bunch of different things. I could talk to you for an hour over the whole process and journey I went through. Ultimately, it came down to God coming into my life and saving me. But we have to reach out. And you have to know that it's okay to pull on one another. When I was in Iraq on April 8th in 2003, we got into a battle in Baghdad. That was a day that there was just a bunch of chaos going on in Baghdad at that time. And as we pulled into the city, we're getting fire from everywhere. We're taking ambushes and there's casualties going on. And we pull up to the Iraqi Ministry of Defense. We're patrolling on foot through the streets. and we get ambushed on all sides by over 300 Fedayeen Saddam soldiers. These were their special forces. These were the ones that Saddam's son trained up. His son was 100 times crazier than Saddam ever was. And we're surrounded by them, and we're taking fire, and we're taking casualties, and it's chaotic. And our platoon commander goes to his training. He goes to his training, which is what, in that moment, when you're surrounded by the enemy and you're ambushed and you're taking heavy fire, what do? You get on the radio and do what? Call for support. You call for help. There was no issue of pride in that moment. There was no issue of I might bother somebody in this moment. Our unit was under fire. Our unit was taking casualties. We were being overwhelmed. There was nothing wrong with getting on that radio and calling for support. And when he did, we called mortars. They were in their own fight. They couldn't set up and help us. We called for artillery. They weren't approving artillery into the urban city at that time. Eventually, we had to call for air support. And air support said, we're on our way. And I'll never forget the 3 words that they put out there that came through our radio at that time. They said, hold your position. We're on our way. Hold your position. And in that moment, we knew holding our position wasn't setting down our rifles and kicking back until they dropped some bombs on this Ministry of Defense. It was to continue to fight, continue to stand, continue to hold where we were, because help was on the way. And then they showed up, dropped some bombs on that Ministry of Defense, and it was beautiful. And we were able to take it over, and we were victorious in that battle. But if we never called for help, who knows what would have happened? You're going to find yourself in positions in life where you're overwhelmed, whether it's by finances, your relationships, your leadership, whatever it is. You're going to find yourself in positions in life where you're overwhelmed, and it's going to bring you to a place of thinking, what do I do now? What can I do? I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted. What do I do? You call for help. If you don't have those people in your life right now that you can call and get support from, then find new people in your life. I'm getting tired of hearing from people when I say this, well, nobody in my life would ever answer that call. I don't have people in my life that would help me in that moment. Then get new people in your life. Find those people. We would never go out on a patrol if we didn't have a list of other units in the area that we could call on for help. We would never have gone out on a patrol thinking nobody would ever help us. We don't know anybody around here that would help us. Every day is a battle. There is a war with suicide, and every day is a battle. Don't go about a single day in your life without knowing that you have at least 2 to 3 people in your life that you could call on when you needed help. And don't go a day in your life without being somebody that another can call on when they need help as well. There's a bigger picture. It's not just about you. We are here for one another. I understand you guys are in a pre-deployment phase right now. You've been together for the last couple of weeks. You're getting ready to deploy together. You are a family. If you haven't already, get to know one another. You're going to be spending a lot of time with each other. You are brothers. You are sisters. Some of you are big brothers. Some of you are big sisters. Be there for one another. Lieutenant Damon mentioned that dark sense of humor. That's fine. That's fine. I'm a Marine. I get it. Trust me. If that's what it takes, just be there for one another and help each other through it. We can't do it on our own. We weren't designed to do it on our own. That was beautiful. Thanks. From the guy who said, I love you. Right on. Outstanding. We are at war with suicide. Know that. And every day is a battle. And approach every day in that manner. I fought that battle for too long before I found that victory that came my way in there. I dealt with it for too long. You don't have to. if that's something you're going through, you don't have to just keep going through it. People say it's okay to not be okay. It's okay. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay not okay. It's okay to be in a position where you're overwhelmed. It's okay to be in a position where things aren't okay in your life in the moment. That's okay. We're all going to be there. But it's not okay to stay there. Another saying I can't stand is the struggle is real. It is, but if you're not making any choices to get out of it, your struggles now become your choice. You have a choice to make every single day. What are you going to choose to be today? There's a man named Dr. Viktor Frankl who was in the Holocaust. He wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he writes about being in the Holocaust, of all places, and said they could take away my clothes, they could take away my food, they could take away my family, they could take away everything physically they could possibly take away. They could even take away my freedom and lock me up. But the one thing they cannot take from me is my ability to choose how I will respond in any given situation. Can you be that person that chooses joy in your life? When the situations in life aren't something to be happy about, can you be somebody who still chooses joy? When things in life aren't peaceful, can you still choose to be peaceful within you? When life is chaotic around you, can you still choose to have a sense of peace about you? When things in life aren't lovely, can you still choose to love? These are choices. Happiness is based on situations. I'm not saying you got to be happy, but you can choose to be joyful. There's a difference in them. Can you be somebody when life isn't happy, you can be joyful? Choose. Every day you wake up and choose. There's some mornings that I wake up and I'm a little grumpy because I didn't get that good of sleep. And then in the first 5 minutes of waking up, I realize I got this scowl on my face and I'm just kind of moping around. It doesn't take me long to get out of that and realize I can choose to be different right now. I can choose to put a smile on my face. I can choose to walk upright. I can choose to praise God in this moment, even though I feel like I didn't sleep very well. I can choose those things. I could choose to be joyful and be with my wife in the morning before she goes to work, to spend time with her, to pray with her, to tell her goodbye, and I'll see her tonight, and to have a great day. I can choose to be joyful in those moments. We choose. It's a choice every day. So as we go about this war on suicide, know that that's our enemy, and we choose joy. We choose peace in our life. We choose to be loving. We choose to be kind because it's bigger than us. Right? I'm using words like that for a reason. Because I can be a big bad Marine up here who's, not as lean, maybe not as mean, but still a Marine, all right? And I can say joy, peace, love, kindness, because those things have power in our life. Because the picture is bigger than us. There's other people out there that will be affected by those choices that we make. And as we bring those things into people's lives, it benefits us. Make choices every day that will benefit you. I love God, I'm a man of God, I'm a student of the scripture, but I don't need to pull on that to stand up here and tell you that drinking and getting drunk is a bad idea. I don't need to go to that to tell you, don't do that. Well, I can do whatever I want. You can. You can do anything you want, but not everything is going to be beneficial to you. When you seek the bottle, when you seek drinking, when you go that route, it's a choice. And know that that choice isn't going to bring about anything beneficial. And that's hard. That was a hard decision I had to make in my life. Being a Marine, and I'm sure with you guys too, alcohol becomes a part of the culture. It really does. So many veterans, I see them throughout the year posting pictures or sending me messages saying that they're taking a drink for so-and-so who killed himself, so-and-so who died in combat, taking a shot for this person. What is that doing for their memory? What are you doing for them? I'm so sad they died, I'm going to go get drunk and be stupid. Where's the benefit? There is none. For those who we've lost, for those who we will continue to lose, don't drink in their honor. Live a life that's worth living in their honor. Live a life of success. Live a life of joy. Live a life of purpose in their honor. I used to be so down and depressed all the time, having memories of those we lost, almost dying myself, and then those who committed suicide after we got home would bring me down so much. And I'd be in this constant state of depression and anxiety and anger and rage and shame and guilt. And I would just drink and drink and drink until it became a part of my life. I was what you call a functioning alcoholic, the kind that can't go to work and function unless I got whiskey in me. I couldn't go to sleep without shots of whiskey and a handful of Benadryl. And if I didn't wake up in the morning, so be it. That was my mindset. But what good does that do for those we lost? What good does that do for Staff Sergeant Colley? What good does that do for Sherrod? What good does that do for Aguilar? What good does that do for Quinones? What good does it do for those? If I just get drunk in their honor, in their memory, there's no benefit. Live a life that's worth living for them. Focus on the things that will bring joy, that will bring benefit, because they no longer can. Those men that I just named off, they can no longer hug their family. They can no longer pick up their kids. They can no longer smile and laugh and go have a good time. They can no longer be successful. So what excuse do I have to live a life of depression and guilt and shame and sadness when they no longer can live at all? So I'm going to live my life in a way that's a life worth living. I'm going to live my life in a way that brings joy. I'm going to live my life in a way that brings success. And I want to spread that as much as I can. And every day, that's my goal. If I can get through to one person and let them know that they are loved, they are cared for, there is hope, then that day was purposeful. And hopefully today I'm here for at least one person in here that will hear these words and will receive them in their heart and will impact them in their life. And they'll make a different choice than what they were planning on. With the amount of soldiers that are in this room, I guarantee you there's at least a small handful that is thinking about suicide and has a plan, just in case they decide to make that choice. So hopefully you hear these words and understand that there is hope, that there is a better choice to be made, and that you can continue moving forward because the picture is bigger than you. When I was in Iraq and I was fighting out there, I was out there because the government told me to be there and I was given a mission. But when rounds started going back and forth downrange, I was fighting for the Marine next to me. I was fighting to make sure he made it home. And he was fighting to make sure I made it home. We are at war with suicide, and every day is a battle. Every day. Make the choices that will get you to the next day and the next day and the next day. Because there's somebody else counting on that. There's someone else in your life that's counting on you to make it to the next day. You may not know who they are and you may never know, but somebody's counting on you for that. And if at any point you feel like that nobody cares, nobody loves you, nobody cares about you, nobody would care if you were gone tomorrow, know that I care. I love you. And I want to see you make it to the next day with purpose, with power, with productivity, with success in your life. I can't ever say no when Melanie calls and says, will you come speak to this unit? Any of you guys out here, you guys, anybody in the National Guard, I don't know what it is. I just can't say no. I'm not paid to be here. There's no incentive for me to be here other than wanting to talk to you guys, other than wanting to be here and share some hope with you. Because I've been in your boots. I've been in your uniform. It was different looking, but 15 years, but I've been there. And I remember being in a position where you are right now, thinking, okay, I'm here, I'm listening, when's he going to be done? I want to be here to at least speak to somebody who's going to hear me today and is going to make a better choice tomorrow. When you look in the mirror, I need you to understand that who you're seeing is not your enemy. You are not the enemy. All too often we can get into a position in life where we see ourselves in the mirror and we think that's the one causing all the problems. I'm causing so many problems in my life. I can't get along with anybody. I just keep arguing with my spouse. My kids don't seem to like me. I'm just causing problems. I'm hurting everybody. Everything would be so much better if I was just taken out of the picture. Then everybody could be in peace and they wouldn't have to deal with me. That's a lie from the devil. You are not the enemy. We are at war with suicide, not you. Not the person in the mirror. And there's decisions that you make every single day that will determine the outcome of your daily battles. Choose joy, choose hope, choose life. Because there is so much going on that you don't even realize. Back in 2007, I found myself sitting in a closet with an H&K 45 pistol pointed to my head. This was a few years after I got back from Iraq. I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. I was tired of hurting my family. I looked in the mirror and I saw myself as the enemy. And I thought my son will be better off without me. He was 1.5 years at the time. My family will be better off without me. I'm doing nothing but causing problems and I can't deal with these nightmares anymore. I can't deal with these thoughts anymore. I don't know what to do. So I grabbed that pistol and I went into my closet. I sat down. I put the gun to my head and I went to go put pressure on the trigger, and my 1.5-year-old son in the room next to me let out the loudest scream that I had ever heard him scream in my life. He didn't see me. He didn't know what was going on. But for some reason in that moment, he screamed. And I released the pressure off that trigger and I put the gun down, and I had that tiny moment of clarity. Just a tiny moment of clarity. To realize that in that moment, I was not the father that he needed. I was not the man that he needed. I was not a good example of who he should be in his life. But if I pulled the trigger, then I killed all potential of ever becoming that man and that father that my son needed. And I didn't know how I was going to be successful. I didn't know how I was going to get out of this. I didn't know how I was going to find some kind of joy in my life again. But I knew that I had to. I had to. And it was still years before I got to a place where I could say I've overcome PTSD. I've overcome alcoholism. I've overcome drug addiction. I've overcome anxiety. I've overcome depression. But if I didn't make that choice in that moment, if I didn't get that single moment of clarity to realize I need to be the father and man that he needs, and pulling this trigger isn't going to make that happen. If I didn't have that moment, I wouldn't have continued to move forward. I never would have developed a relationship with my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. I never would have met my wife, who has been the greatest person in my life, who has brought me out of so many darknesses and depressions. I never would have seen my children grow up. I never would be here right now to talk to you, to hopefully give somebody a word today that they'll walk away with and make the same decision, to have that slight moment of clarity, to think, one more day. I'll go one more day. I don't know how I'm going to be successful. I don't know how I'm going to get to a point to where I stop seeking alcohol to solve all my problems, or to bring me joy, or to be able to socialize with other people. I don't know how I'm going to get to that point, but today I choose to go one more day with the mindset and the perspective and the future thinking that I'm going to get there. And as long as every day we keep that going forward, we'll get there. I sat in front of an Army veteran one time who just tried to hang himself. 3 days after he got out of the hospital, and I sat in front of him. And as I started talking to him, he cut me off and he said, "Do you have any idea what I'm even going through?" And I said, "Give me a few minutes to tell you my story and to talk to you a little bit, and then you can determine that." And by the time I was done talking, his response was, "Whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. I want to achieve what you've achieved. If you can, from what you've went through, then so can I." And he put himself in that position to start receiving things into his life that he didn't know before, to start applying things into his life that he wasn't applying before. And he's still alive to this day. He's still moving forward in his life. He's still successful to this day. And that's one of many. But it takes being put in a position of surrender, not to an enemy, but to a cause that's greater than yourself. Of saying, okay, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to achieve those things in my life. And when you place yourself in a position of surrender in that way, then you'll have nothing but success going forward. You don't have to know how it's going to happen. It just will. And we keep pressing forward every single day. And when we get overwhelmed, we call somebody and we ask for help. Some of these things might sound like they're easier said than done. Oh, I just got to have a positive attitude and call somebody when I'm feeling bad. Yes, it's more difficult than that. It is. It's a simple process, but it is a difficult thing to establish in your life. And that's fine. It wasn't designed to be easy. To have a joyful, successful life wasn't designed to be easy. You're going to come across certain obstacles in your life. They're going to try to stop you. But when you make that daily choice to move forward, that daily choice to choose life, then you overcome those obstacles and you keep moving forward. And I love when people say, Andrew, that's easier said than done. That's fine. Then say it. Then wake up every single day and say it. Today I will choose joy. Today I will choose life. Today I will choose this. And if by the end of that day, everything you said in the beginning turned out to be wrong, then do it the next day. Wake up and say, I choose this, I choose that, and keep doing that every day. It will change. It will get to a point where that just becomes your life. It's just like training, repetition, 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 and muscle memory. You go through training so that when you get to the real thing, you just do it. It just happens. When I showed up in Iraq, they didn't hand me a rocket launcher and say, figure it out. I went through training to learn how to use it. So that when bullets started flying, when the enemy started attacking me, I knew what to do. I didn't have to think about it. I didn't have to break out a manual. I didn't have to seek guidance from my squad leader on how to load a rocket and fire it downrange. I knew. Because every single day I trained. Every single day, I went through the same things over and over and over and over until it became so annoying. But it became muscle memory, became a part of who I am, that 15 years later, you could put a Mark 153 small in front of me right now, and I could operate that weapon with no problem. I could teach a whole class on it with no problem. I could tell you about every round, every rocket that goes through it. It's the same thing with our life. All these things that you need to establish for success daily, after day, after day, after day. Say them, do them, establish them in your life. And don't see it as a game. We are at war with suicide, especially in our military and veteran community. And every day is a battle. And you are going to be there for one another. And you can help one another through it. I'm tired of seeing my brothers and sisters in uniform going down to suicide. Tired of it. Let's make that choice to choose life every single day and make sure that our life is one that's a life worth living. One that is in honor of those who have passed before us. Whether you know them or not, they wore the uniform, and so many men and women have died on the battlefield and after they came home to this war on suicide. That it's up to us to carry on and to live a life in their honor, and one that's a life worth living, not one that's a life of alcohol, drugs, depression. That's not in their honor. Let's keep standing in our life. And when that enemy comes at us, let's stand bold. Let's fight back. Let's be there for one another. And let's continue to press forward every single day with that hope, that faith, and that love in us. And when we're supporting somebody, we tell them, go get it, get up, let's go. And we find that success in our life. So thank you guys for having me here today. I wish you just pray for nothing but blessings and favor over all of you during your deployment and moving forward, that you stay healthy and that you guys just stay close to one another and that you move forward in success in all you do. So thank you very much. I appreciate you.